Good morning, everybody. I hope everybody is well and welcome to my live. I know I haven't gone live in quite some time. It's been a hot minute, as they say. I'm just going to get my background music going and then we're going to start with my book review on the Junto Ito book Frankenstein. And thank you, everybody who's came and also participated in the poll, and I'll afterwards obviously share the results at the end. I will try to remember to do that, but yeah, I'm going to share the poll at the end of it. So I hope everybody is having a great Saturday morning. So thank you, Ron. Oh, wait, nice pun for a YouTube channel name. And thank you, the Bud Files, for being here, and Ice Ice Not Baby. Thank you guys for being here. Even if you guys are in the background just listening, that's absolutely fine. Obviously, participation is appreciated, but I get it. It is Saturday morning, and we all need a minute sometimes. So by all means, get your coffee, sit down, and listen. I'll try to make this book review as short as possible. I will be going to see a movie later today, so I do want to make sure that I'm not late for the movie. So it won't be a very long live, probably no more than half an hour, 45 minutes. Okay, so I'm gonna just play my intro and then come back to talk about the movie, not the movie, sorry, the book Frankenstein by Junji Ito. All right, so let's get my intro video going and then we can start talking about the book. All right, guys. So I'm back. Thank you again, guys, for being here and spending a little bit of time with me to talk about this book called Frankenstein by Junji Ito. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, Junji Ito is a Japanese horror writer. He does mostly short stories. So technically, the book Frankenstein is a collection of short stories. The main one being, of course, the title Frankenstein, which takes up most of the book. It's 187 pages, at least in my version of the book, which I'm going to get up now. So I'm just going to go mute for half a second so I can grab the book and come right back to you guys. I'll be right back. All right, thank you guys for your patience. So yes, so I have the book now in my hand. I should have grabbed it before starting the live, but yes, I have. As you can hear, I'm flipping through the pages right now. So basically, the book is about 190 pages of a 400-page book. So it's about half the book, more or less. And basically, Junji Ito, like I said, is a Japanese writer. He does um, mostly horror stories, short stories, etc. And of course, being born and raised Japanese and being ethnically Japanese, a lot of his horror stories are based on the culture and religion of Japan, right? So a lot of Buddhism and Shinto religion, a little bit of Christianity in the modern world, because obviously, he's born in the modern world. So even though it may not be based on ancient history and all that, it's still quite, modern stuff. And of course, Frankenstein is a very well known horror story from, of course, Europe. So basically, it is a story that he's Japanizing, for lack of a better word here. He is making it his own thing. He's really transforming this story that was basically white European 18th century, I think, 1900s, something like that, and making it something for the modern day Japanese people. Okay, now obviously it has been translated into English from Japanese, so obviously there are certain terms or cultural elements that if you're like me, you read in the English version, you may not necessarily understand or quite get, or get quote unquote mistranslated, lost in translation would be a better word for that. So I'm just going to go ahead and show you guys really quickly a screenshot of the book so that you guys can see for yourself what I'm talking about, because it's not just the fact that he's making the story more of a Japanese representation of a well-known European story, but it's also his very unique artistic style that he's given it to, because already Japanese comic books, cartoons, etc., anime are already inherently different from, the Western world's comic books or cartoons or whatever you want to call. But even for that Japanese standards, Junji Ito's style is very different from most of what you're going to see in Japan. So here we have, so as you can see, this is just one of the what's called a storyboard in the comic world, right? So this is basically what his style looks like. So as you can see, most of the time, other than the cover of the book and maybe a little bit of color, most of what you're going to see in his comic books are going to be black and white. All right. And this very, it feels almost old-timey style of, it's not a solid block of color. It's like lines of, you know, um, that you're seeing for the style of it, right? So they're not filling out the whole page of just a block of color for the background and then another block of color for the face, another block of color for the clothes or whatever. It's just lines that give you the sense of, okay, there's something different here. There's the background, there's the clothes, and then shading to create the depth and the outlines, etc., right? So I'm gonna stop sharing and come back to the screen here. So basically, obviously, this book is based on the Mary Shelley book itself. So a lot of it is going to be a copy paste of it. Okay. So it's not beat for beat, but a lot of it is going to be very similar to Mary Shelley's original book, Frankenstein. And um, unlike the original book, because that was what's important to understand with Mary Shelley's original book is that it started off as more of a serial. And for those of you who don't know, a cereal, I'm not talking about the food to eat. Originally, many authors, what they would do is that they would publish their works in newspapers that, excuse me, would come out daily or weekly or monthly. So rather than publishing the story in one shot in a book, the story would come out day by day, week by week, month by month, right? So you would have to buy the newspaper on a daily basis, on a monthly basis, on a weekly basis, whatever the case might be, to see the full story. That's how, if I remember correctly, and I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's how she started off with. It just started off as a couple stories here, couple stories there. And then at one point everybody saw that, hey, this is a big thing. Let me actually make this a book, right? So while it's with Junji Ito, right, obviously nowadays most people write books, write the full book, and everything comes out in one shot, right? So you have to create your story basically in one sitting, essentially. Right now, obviously, it still might end up taking you days, weeks, or months to write that story, but basically, when it comes to publishing it, you're publishing everything in one shot, right? While as in Mary Shelley's time, you're writing 2, 3 pages, 5, 10 pages, maybe something like that, publishing it, and then you're working on the next 2, 3, 5, 10, 20 pages and publishing that for the next deadline or whatever, right? So you have a little bit more time to, you know, draw out the story and figure out what where you want to go and what you want to do, right? While as with Junji Ito, he's coming out with everything on the spot and then hoping that his story hits with the public and the public then reacts to everything, hopefully enjoying it or saying, hey, we really didn't like this part or that part for XYZ reason. So, but a lot of it, like I said, for Junji Ito, a lot of the book is, mostly in common with the original story that Mary Shelley published way back when. So I'm just adjusting my microphone because I have to put it on my stand because I'm normally, as you guys see, I'm normally just creating video after video after video. It's been quite a few months since I've done a live. So there we are. It's on the stand. In part also with the fact that I did move. So I do have to consider that I have roommates and everything. So I'm not necessarily always able to go live and do what I would want to do when I was living by myself at my other place. So, in any event, right? So, what do I think about the short story from Junji Ito? Well, overall, I really liked it because of Junji's different style and take on it. And for me, I know that a lot of people find it very controversial when you have a very well known story and then you just replace it with Japanese people or Black people or Chinese people or Latinos or, you know what I mean? That rather than, oh, make your own story. For me, and I've said it before, if it's a story like Frankenstein that's been around, it's for 100 years, for 200 years, for 300 years, go ahead, make it your own story, make your own version, make it. Yeah, it's Frankenstein, but we're replacing everybody by Japanese actors or African actors or whatever the case might be. The story's been done already, and there's numerous plays, movies, theater plays, all this stuff where everybody is played the characters involved in the story to the letter, right? Think of all the Shakespeare plays and movies and books and music and all that stuff that's based on his plays that have been done to the letter of his works. For me, if you're going to create a work that's based on his works, on Shakespeare, on, you know, stuff that's been around for 200 years, go ahead and revamp it, do whatever you want. Now, if it's something that's meant to be historically accurate, so you're trying to represent a real life event that actually happened and you're trying to be truthful to that event, then by all means, try to be as loyal to the actual event, to the actual storyline as much as possible, right? Now, if you're admitting that, hey, look, I'm fictionalizing my interpretation of the story, or I am intentionally making it something different, even by a little bit, then go ahead, do it. For me, I don't care. Obviously, the ideal is you make your own story, right? That's the goal. But a lot of times, how do you how do you make a monster movie that's unique or different, right? Because yes, you can create your own monster, but the storyline in of itself will still come up to a lot of what has already been done. And that's the other thing with this particular story from Junji Ito, is that a lot of what you see in the Frankenstein book are deep seated, deep rooted issues in the human experience, right? It talks about what does it mean to be a man? What does it mean to be human, right? From the perspective of the quote unquote monster, right? Frankenstein has, been portrayed here, just like in the original story, as this man that's out there to pursue knowledge and science. Uh, Never mind if it has negative effects on the thing that you're creating, never mind if it has negative effects on you, on the loved ones, etc. Right? It's you are out here pursuing knowledge and science regardless of anything else, right? It's science above everything, right? um these are elements to the story that at the end of the day were so well presented in the original story by Mary Shelley. Why mess with that, right? It's to me, I think it's a testimony in reality of how good Mary Shelley's story was, that we can afford to just retell the same story, but change a couple little things here and there, right? Like making it more in the modern world, like making it more like, okay, well, rather than it being a ship full of white European men, you're talking about Japanese people, right? Or you're going to have a lot more Asian representation, right? Because the story itself is so good as it is, you don't need to change a whole lot in order for it to still represent the same ideas and concepts that were there from the get go, but giving it a little bit of, you know what, that story, the fact that it was white Europeans, okay, that was normal for 1800s England. That's normal, right? But we're Japanese, right? For example, or we're African, or we're Latino, etc. We want to have that story, that same struggle of, okay, what does it mean to pursue knowledge? What does it mean to be a human being, but with a face that we can recognize, right? And for me, I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. Is it always necessary? No, not always, right? You can, like I said, create your own storylines and still pursue that same idea and knowledge, right? But have it be your own creation. But I think in this case, like I said, Junji Ito really did a good job of, let me tell this story that's still representative of our experience, but in my own way, in my own slightly different from the original. Now, of course, obviously, Junji Ito's will also introduce a couple of characters that may not be in the original, which of course was necessary. Since again, um, he's not talking about the experience of European people, right? He's telling about his experience and his life, right? So there are some differences overall with the book, but I think a lot of it is well done, where the things that needed to stay has stayed and the things that needed to be different are different. One of the things that did stay quite the same is the fact that the ending is very much in keeping to the original story. Now, I'm not don't want to quote unquote spoil. Obviously, the Mary Shelley version of the book is well known, well read. If you haven't read it, and I do see that you guys are participating in the poll, a lot of you guys are saying that, so 50%, so there's four people that voted, so two of you said that yes, you read the original Mary Shelley book recently, and one person said no, never, they never read it, and one person said that it's been a while. So I'm not spoiling too much for too many of you, but basically in the original story, it kind of left everybody on a cliffhanger, right? Because in the ending of the original, we don't know what happened to the monster. We just ended up going to the Arctic Pole, and oops, both Frankenstein and the monster are left there. Oh, hello, hello, Kevin. How are ya? Word up, word up. Hey, thank you, Kevin, for being here and spending a couple of minutes with me. Even if you're in the background just listening, that's absolutely fine. I get it. I know I'm just going to make a quick live, another 10-15 minutes left on my book review. And after that, I am going to get going. So it's a quick review. I probably will do a proper full review later on. Thank you very much for sharing. And please, guys, hit the like button. Do try to participate in the poll that I'll try to, at the end, try to remember to end the poll before leaving the live. But yeah, so basically, Frankenstein and the monster, uh, both at the end of the book, end up in the North Pole. Now, of course, Frankenstein, being the creator of the monster, not the monster itself, we all know that, right? Passes away in the Arctic North while the monster is there. We don't know if the monster lives or not, right? We have no idea. And that's how Junji Ito's book also ends. But of course, it's everything in between that. A lot of it has changed in Mary Shelley's original from Frankenstein by Junji Ito. Junji Ito has a lot more emphasis on what the experience was like for the monster itself. Okay. And I think that was a good perspective because even though there was a lot of that in the original, from what I remember, there was a lot more emphasis on Frankenstein's perspective of it, right? And although that's still happening with the book, you're really seeing that more at the beginning and the end of it in Junji Ito's iteration of the story, rather than in Mary Shelley was the other way around. A lot of it was focused on Frankenstein himself and a little bit on the monster, right? But in both cases, what I like about in both books is that you see that the monster isn't this brutish creature that just goes around making noise, that kind of noise, right? It's really you have a sense that in both cases the monster has an intellect, that it develops language. um, in the Junji Ito version, it actually, the monster, quote unquote, gets adopted, for lack of a better word, by a family that takes care of it. And the monster learns language, learns how to interact. Um, and it's actually not technically the family that adopts, it's the father of the family that adopts the monster and teaches him about the Bible and reading and writing and all that. And you see that the monster is this intellectual creature that is actually able to be cognitive and self-aware, and understands humanity and understands itself and its own experience, and realizes quite early on that, yeah, I look different, I am different, I'm not a human in the traditional sense. And that's why in this book, it really goes after Frankenstein, because it looks at Frankenstein just like Adam looks at God, like, you created me here, you imbibed me in life and then just left me. And like, I'm now in this world that just by based on my looks, I don't know where I am. I don't know what I'm doing. People fear me. And I mean, I don't blame humanity for fearing me. I look hideous. I look scary, right? So, of course, for the monster, it's like, how am I supposed to be dealing with this? How am I? You're my creator, and you just left me in this world, in this experience. What am I supposed to do? Hug you, love you, thank you for this? Of course. So it's like in both books, in their own way, both with Mary Shelley and with the Junji Ito version, you get the sense that the monster understand that it's a victim of circumstance, right? That it's not going through this stuff because it's innately in nature evil and horrible and oh my god. That's, I think, what I like in both books is that you have this being that when you look at it, you think it's a monster. But when you actually listen to what it's saying, you understand, well, no, it's actually not a monster. Yes, in both books, it does do evil things, right? Um, so you understand that, okay, even though you didn't start off as this evil creature. You're not inherently evil. That's not who you are as a living creature, but you still ended up doing evil things. Because in both books, the monster does unalive people. So obviously, I'm not saying that the monster is a hero and oh, it's wonderful and perfect. It does do evil things, but you kind of get the impression that with especially the Junji Ito version of the story, that evil is the consequence of a deeper issue, right? And I think that also speaks to societal experiences that many people are going through these days, right? That a lot of us are doing these horrible things not because that's our nature, not because, hey, might as well just steal $1,000. I might as well just on the live. No, a lot of people are doing it's like, hey, I have $50 to buy grocery, right? We all know with inflation, $50 for groceries nowadays doesn't do as much as it used to, even just 10 years ago, let alone 20, 30, 40 years ago, right? And I know that a lot of people are now getting into homesteading, right? Kevin can speak on this if you want to, if you're participating in the chat or not. Um, there's a lot of growth in the homesteading community because people are like, look, I can't afford groceries. So I either have to steal, do I have to starve? Or do I have to just like, hey, you know what? I have a backyard, I have a patio, I have an extra room. Like, there's a lot of people that are struggling these days to just get the basic necessities and are like in position where it's like, I feel like stealing might be my only option, right? There's unfortunately a lot of people that are going through that kind of questioning, right? So, yeah, yeah, you're right, Kevin. Theft unfortunately does seem to have increased, unfortunately. And like I wish I people didn't have to be in that kind of position, right? So that's why I'm saying with Junjito Ito's book that you have these that sentiment of people being pushed into a situation that normally they would not feel like, okay, yeah, this is my option. This is okay to do, right? A lot of people are feeling like they're pushed, they're being ignored by the people that have created the situation, right? Think about it. 100 years ago, most people had a home, had land, and you grew most of the food that you needed. Right now, obviously, here in Canada, and obviously Kevin understands this, you're not growing 24/7 all year round. You do have to take into consideration that some fruits and vegetables, unless you were willing and able to travel to Florida, you're only getting that seasonally and it's going to be expensive when you go to the market to buy it, right? So, obviously, for us in Canada, you're dealing with a lot of potatoes, a lot of apples, grapes, things like that, especially during the summertime, right? And then you're canning a lot of the food to last you during the winter. Now, obviously, these modern day society, right? You're now dealing with most of us are like myself in an apartment, a lot of us. If you have a house, yeah, okay, great, fantastic, but you're not thinking of homesteading, right? And in fact, a lot of zoning laws don't allow you to homestead, don't allow you to grow your own food in your own backyard, right? You have to be very careful about that. You do have to look at local laws, right? So you kind of are in a position where we all are in a society that was created saying, no, you're going to these apartments, you're going to buy your food. Yeah, it's great that I like a lot of people, I love bananas, I love strawberries and blueberries, but these are not fruits and vegetables that I'm growing here in Canada, right? This is not common stuff that you're going to find on a farm in Canada, right? This is stuff that if you're in Florida, and I do have a friend on YouTube that she lives in Florida and it's great and fantastic that she can grow oranges and peaches and bananas and pineapples and all that stuff. And she did start getting into homesteading because, hey, I'm in a situation, I have a house. It is illegal for me to grow my own fruits and vegetables. on in my backyard, and that's what she's doing. And she's, planting all these stuff and herbs and vegetables and great, fantastic. Here in Canada, we're not as lucky. So it's like we're in a situation where if I want food, I have no choice, right? So we're living the consequence of the society itself created this, right? I didn't say I'm not the one like went back 100 years ago and said, "Hey, let's live in this." If it was up to me, things would be very different. But anyways, I'm ranting as usual, so I'll get reining it back in, and I will end the live relatively soon, another 4 or 5 minutes, but basically, right? Um, so a lot of what I like about this book is that, again, it is a comic book for, like, for those of you who are Canadian like myself, or American. It is a comic book, right? And I do like that. So you're dealing with a very complex story, but in bite sizes, right? So you're not it doesn't feel intimidating like the book War and Peace. For those of you who went to high school and had to read it like I did, that's a book that's like 1,200 pages, something like that. It's a block of text, and you have characters that you'll only see once for 3 pages and never mentioned again, or you'll have five characters with the same name or similar names, and you're like trying to remember who is what. And it's a very big book that also is dealing with a lot of important issues, but it's like, how am I going to remember everything? How am I going to comprehend? This one is quite the contrary. Obviously, it's an anime, so it's going to deal with a lot of very complex issues, but in bite sizes. So it makes it a lot easier for the average person to read and to understand. And you don't feel like you're reading this overly philosophical, overly like hoity toity, oh, look at me, this is fancy pantsy reading here. You just feel like you're reading the life and experience of these characters, right? It's just these people sitting down talking and going through their experiences, right? And just like in the original, the story's told to you by Frankenstein and or the monster, right? So you're not feeling like you're you're disconnected from the story. You feel like you're being spoken to both literally and metaphorically, right? Again, through the topics and through the fact that, like I said, the the characters are just talking and say, "Hey, let me tell you about my story. Let me tell you why this, why that, etc." Right? So you feel like it's very interactive and very easy to understand everything, and you don't feel like you're being spoken down to, right? You feel like you're just having a conversation with somebody that's going through a really shitty experience. Pardon my French. But yeah, you really feel like it's just, hey, I'm going through this and I need to talk to you about it. And I really like that about the book. So basically, that's pretty much what I want to say about uh, Junji Ito story Frankenstein. I really liked it. I definitely do recommend, guys, if you can get the book. I do believe it's on Amazon. Let me go take a moment here to double check and make sure. But I'm pretty sure because that's where I got it, was on Amazon. Obviously, Amazon Canada, obviously. But yeah, oh yeah, okay, it's still. Let me double check here. Okay, yeah. Yeah, it's definitely on stock. So I'll show you guys the version that I got. So that way you guys can see for yourself. There we are. So this is obviously the version that I got. So as you can see, yes, the cover is in color, but inside the book will be in black and white for a lot of it. There's some color here and there, but for the most part, so it's 3018 for the hardcover version in Canadian dollars. So it's probably closer to something like $25 American if you're American. Obviously, I don't know the exact price. But yeah, for those of you who are in Canada, like Kevin, you're more than welcome to check out Amazon Canada to buy this version of the book. So it's Junji Ito, Frankenstein. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I really like the book, and like I said, it's the kind of book because it's a lot of short stories, right? You don't feel like you have to read everything right away in one shot, right? You can read a little bit here, read a little bit there. That's kind of why I did it, and that's why I set up the live to be for 2 weeks when I started it, so that I would have time to read a little here, read a little bit there, right? So I'm just going to end the poll now and see your results. So we got 5 votes in total. 40% of you guys, so about 2 votes, people said yes, they read Mary Shelley's Frankenstein recently. 2 of you guys said no, never read it. And then somebody somewhere said yes, but it's been a while. And nobody said no, it's yeah, when the dinosaurs were alive. Of course, sometimes I try to be a little bit of a jokester with the polls and everything. So, but anyways, thank you to everybody who decided to be here for my live. If you're on the replay, please by all means give the live a like, comment what you guys thought if you've read either Junji Ito's Frankenstein and or Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Let me know what you guys think. Share your thoughts, share out the live, give it a like, give me a comment, all of that. And I hope to see you guys soon. I hope to see Kevin in Tuber chats soon. I will be going later on today to see a movie. It's called Monkey Man. It's been getting a lot of news recently, and I probably will do a movie review on that. I also did see a couple days ago the movie The Omen. Origin or First Omen or something like that. I forgot the exact title, but the Omen prequel. So I will probably be doing a movie review on those two at some point. I'm not sure if it's going to be a live or I'm going to do a pre-created video. Thank you, Kevin, for being here and for sharing. And you're welcome. I hope you enjoyed my blah, blah, blah for the half an hour, 45 minutes that I was here. I tend to rant a lot, but I hope that wasn't too much of an issue. And thank you, everybody else, for coming here. Thank you, Ice Ice Baby, for being here. Thank you, the Bud Files, for stopping by. And thank you for Runaway. Again, really nice, cute little channel name there. Anyways, thank you guys. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. And I hope that you guys enjoyed this live. And I'll try to get back to going to lives. But like I said, I'm really enjoying doing pre-made content. But we'll try to get back into the live. So anyways, have a great day, guys. I hope everything is going to be fantastic for you guys today. So thank you guys. Bye. Au revoir.